Hi YouTube, this is Sandeep here, and today we are talking about the new FujiFilm XT1. And why we are looking at this camera first of all is because this is a unique camera, and also this camera has unique picture quality as well. That's the precise reason why we are talking about it today. So without much delay, let's get into some of the dials and the controls it has, and then we'll take a look at the image quality of this camera. To start with, I'm using this camera along with a 50 mm, or rather a 35 mm f1.4 Fuji lens. I said 50 mm because the equivalent focal length of full frame camera would be 50 mm roughly. And also this will be a standard body. I purchased it with just like a body and not a kit lens, not with a kit lens. So this is a separate lens which I purchased from Fuji. And having said that, let's go into some of the images which I took from my iPhone. So pardon the quality and the resolution of the images. However, the idea is to look at what are the dials and controls on this particular camera. So if we see this camera, um, the main important part is the dial. If we'll start from the top left hand side, and it has a ISO dial. This is a unique thing which I've never seen in any camera before. Obviously some of the cameras like DF may have it, but this feature specifically helps us in quickly isolating the ISO if we need, without going to the menus or buttons or looking at the LCD screen. And also, if you can see here, it has the auto functionality which helps us quickly change it to auto mode if we want, and the H1 and H2 can also be finalized in the menu system, that is. And then comes the shutter dial, and again the shutter dial too is a little bit unique. It has an auto button as well, and also you can set different shutter options with just the turning of the dial, or there are other dials at the front and the rear of the camera that can also be used for controlling the shutter speed, as well as it can be left at auto. And you have this function button which is predefined for Wi-Fi, which quickly switches on or switches off the Wi-Fi as per our need. And then the on-off switch, just like in any Nikon cameras, and then the shutter release button, and this is the exposure compensation button. Nowadays we are seeing this as standard in most of the cameras, and this is the movie record button. This again is a standard, and the best part about this button is that it does not support or does not promote accidental switching on of the movie button, and the movie button can be enabled in any mode. Okay, coming to the modes, this camera does not have any modes. Having said that, what Fuji has done here is a unique thing where it'll let you set the shutter at auto, the ISO at auto, the aperture at auto, and that way you can have either the aperture priority, the shutter priority, or complete manual of all the options. Like you can see that even on the lens there is an A button, which means the aperture is at auto. So basically you can have the same mode functionality, however in a more, I would say, pro kind of a feel, where there is no mode button itself to control it, but you control with three or four individual knobs. This is a unique design, and if people are not used to the terminologies or how the mode button functions, it might be a little bit of a learning curve for them. But for a professional photographer who's already conversant with what is a shutter, what is an aperture, what is ISO and all those things, it'll be a quick and an easy learning, and they would definitely love to shoot with this camera. And next is the looks part of it. The look itself is very retro, and also it looks more like an ancient camera than latest camera. However, the interiors of it is far from being ancient. So having said that, the next good part of it is this dial. There are dual dials, that is the ISO dial. Below that there is a smaller dial, which is very important point here, because most of these functions, as you can see here, the bracketing, the continuous high, the continuous low, single shot, and all those things are generally hidden in a menu, and you'll have to pull it out. but this one gives access to all of those functionality quick and almost at a real time. But one thing we should remember is um, even in the menu, it's kind of I would say a hybrid. Like for example, bracketing, I have ISO bracketing, exposure bracketing, and several things. So first you need to go into the menu system, set what kind of bracketing you need, and then put this dial to bracketing. That's when this camera can shoot and do bracketing. And also an important thing we need to remember is this does not process or combine images in the camera to make it into an HDR image, which I think is a welcome feature for me. What I've seen in some of the cameras like EM1 and I think EM10 as well, and also 5D Mark III, is that they combine the image to form a HDR image, which is a good functionality, but what it does is basically slows down your processing time. Like if you are in if you are in an intense situation to click pictures, if your camera is taking like 30 seconds to combine the images, the camera kind of dies down for 30 seconds, and then you'll have to wait for the images to combine and the final image to come out, and then you can start shooting again. So that kind of functionality is avoided, which I feel is a welcome feature. Of course, having that, there's nothing wrong in it, or disabling it, having it and getting it and giving an option to disable it is also another good feature which you can think about. But this functionality I really like, because it can just blindly save the images, and I can use a software like Photomatics Pro to process the image later, so which is very good feature I feel. Then the best part about this is the viewfinder. Obviously there are a lot of other videos on YouTube talking about it, so I don't want to go into the details of it. The only issue which I had is the eye cup. It's like a dirt magnet, as you can see from this picture. It attracts a lot of dirt and collects there. And you can also see a dial at the right hand side here, which is basically for your metering. So that again, that's a very unique and good feature which this camera has incorporated. Coming back to the right hand side, again we have AEL, AFL, the focus assist. The focus assist button basically helps you magnify the image in manual focusing, and also your quick menu button and the menu OK button. So these are all the main buttons, and as you can see, Fuji has done away with the markings on these four directional pads, so you can basically customize this for any of the features and the functionality set. And also one quick thing which I want to mention here about Fuji is that it has got a unique filter system which is from the old FujiFilm era, that is when they used to make films for clicking pictures, and they have tried to replicate that in this particular camera as filters, or you can say standard mode, a vivid mode. They call it Provia Velvia, which is very good. Although most of the cameras have this feature, this I feel gives you a more correct look or more desired look than what is available in many other cameras. Many other cameras, it's either too bright or dull and you kind of stay away from it. But what I felt is those filters on this camera has been implemented very well, and we can use that for a lot of use, and I'm seeing myself using that particular feature a lot going forward. Having said those things, let's quickly look at one more functionality here, which is really good. This button right next to the lens is for manual, continuous, and single shutter focusing. So why I wanted to talk about this is, when you put into manual functionality, system automatically goes into back button focusing. That is, the button over here, the AFL becomes the focus button, and the shutter release button is separated from focusing. So if you want to still do an autofocus, you can press this button and do an autofocus and also do a manual focus at the same time, and the shutter is disconnected from the focus, so you can only do the manual focus and click the shutter as well. Of course, it has the standard peaking functionality as well, which will help you in manual focusing. After having looked at all of this, let's take a quick look at all the images. at different ISOs to see the noise and everything. Again, these images have been shot at JPEGs with no noise reduction. However, the Fuji, I think, has built in some amount of noise reduction into it, so you might see that. Right now I'm doing this in JPEG because I don't have any raw converters for this particular raw format. So let's start with let's say ISO 400. If I look at ISO 400, it's clean and clear. There's nothing I need to worry about. The focus point is this label, and it looks clean to me, and it's all been shot with the same lens I talked about, 35 f1.4R, and it's been shot at focal length 1.4 and 2.8 in some of the cases. So the next one I'm looking at is ISO 800. Again, the image is crisp and clear, no graininess, nothing here. And then again at 1250, it's almost like the image is at 400. Again, I would like to mention here that the room was not very well lit, and I'm zooming it to 100%. So we can see that there's absolutely no noise whatsoever, or the image processing, whatever was being done, is doing a very good job of doing it. And at 3200 you can see that although I would like to say that from 1250 to 3200 there is a little bit of change, but still the image quality is very good. And then let's look at 5000. Now you can see here that a little bit of image is distorted, and I think Fuji's noise cancellation is kicking in here and doing a bit of smudging action, but I think once we get the raw functionality we'll be able to determine how much of noise cancellation or noise reduction has come into play. Sorry for using noise cancellation instead of noise reduction there. And then looking at 12,800, again it is very clear, although I wouldn't want to use this unless until it's a very dark lit situation and I have to use it. Going up to 25600, it's useless, but still depending on the situation maybe we can still use this. And also I would like to mention here that this particular camera can shoot raw only up to 6400. Anything above that, it will be in JPEGs only. Okay, with that, this with that I'm concluding this review. This was a quick look at Fujifilm XT1. Thank you, YouTube. Bye.